I want to see, I guess, the expansion of Kansas City's offense. You're gonna get Rashee Rice back because I like last year it was just barely good enough for them to do what they needed to do as long as Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. But I think we saw towards the end of the season that, especially in the Super Bowl, where they're just totally outclassed. But you get to the end of the season, you've kind of been living like 4 yards at a time. And that's really tough to sustain over, for them, what became a 20-game season that just ended in absolute disaster. You're going to get Rashee Rice back. You lost Joe Thuney, though, so we'll see how Kingsley Sumataya plays at left guard. I don't know, man. He was really bad when he played last year. But hopefully moving him inside will get him up to speed a little bit faster. But I think there was a reason why they bailed on that experiment so fast last year, and why they didn't really even try to go back to it all that much. Jalen Moore at left tackle from the 49ers, I think that's a pretty big wild card. So we'll see. But I think if you can just get Rashee Rice back and Xavier Worthy takes that next step, you can at least get back to playing some form of explosive offense. Because I think, even with someone as good as Mahomes as your quarterback, you don't want to be living how they were last year. You don't want to be like how we were doing last year, right? We're looking at these Kareem Hunt runs, 50% success rate, 19 carries, 67 yards, and
a whole bunch of jabs.
A whole bunch of jabs. Yeah. And then they walked into a team that can hit you in the mouth with a haymaker over and over and over again, and it wasn't quite good enough. And I just think when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you got to be trying to just open it up a little bit more. And maybe they thought Xavier Worthy was going to be a little bit more ready as a real wide receiver threat than he was the start last season. He was just kind of a gadget play guy, Nicole 2.0 is what that season kind of started as. And he played a little bit better towards the end. But as it was currently constructed, I just don't think it's tenable. And I guess I just don't think it's right to be playing 3 yards in a cloud of dust football when your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. So I would just like to see them try to expand, try to stay a little bit healthier, and hopefully even one of, I forget the Utah State receiver they drafted this year. If he can come in, Jalen Royals. I don't, not the biggest fan of his game, but maybe in the third wide receiver role with Rashee Rice, with Xavier Worthy, whatever Travis Kelce still has left in the tank, that can be a good spot for them, for him this year. But man, they just got to be more explosive than they were on offense, because I think if you were going to do if you were going to sign up for another 17 games of what they went through last year, I don't know if they would get back to the Super Bowl, that's the bar for this team, to get to the Super Bowl every year. And I don't think they can do it again as they were constructed.
As long as Mahomes is healthy, it's basically Final Four or bust. I know it's not fair, but that's kind of how it feels. I mean,
that's literally what it
was the Ichiro. That's what it is. I know. Literally, yes. Every year, right? It was the Ichiro offense. It was just all singles. It was just 4 yard gain, 5 yard gain, 4 yard gain, 5 yard gain. All right, nice little thing. And I'm curious. The explosive passes have just kind of keep dwindling, and how they get there. And now it's almost become like a Chuck Knobloch thing, where it's in their head about completing these, and they can't get it done. And I'm curious if I ever was able to talk to these coaches and be like, is that because you guys don't think you can block it up, or are guys not getting open? Is it both? Is it a lack of faith in that? Because you have to block it up to throw it deep like you do. And I just don't think they ever trusted those tackles and to do that, and justifiably so. But now it kind of led to Andy Reid's worst tendencies, which is going full-blown Mickey Mouse offense. Full-blown, old school, late 90s West Coast with his, the dancing and the red zone stuff. This is the frustrations with Andy Reid for a long time, was what we saw last year. This is what people used to say about the Eagles' offenses in the aughts. I remember as a kid. And then now I saw it last year, and I'm like, oh, where's Freddie Mitchell at? I remember this offense. It's where's another 4 yard swing route? I remember these offenses. So it's let's get back to 2018. I know 2018 is just never going to happen again. I mean, obviously, but let's get back to that. Third down,
there's
block it up,
ground.
and chuck.
There's a middle ground.
A middle ground, please.
Absolutely is. Yeah, Matt, what do you even think about the receiver hierarchy right now? Like, how do you think this kind of even shakes out? Say Rashee Rice comes back 90%. We'll just put it at 90%. How do you think that kind of like it breaks down and looks?
Okay. I'm going to kind of contradict a little bit of what I said in my first segment here, because like the things that are things, because I do think they're not one of these teams. Right. Totally. They're not one of these like teams of like the Rams or the 49ers or the Lions where they're so condensed where they do blur the lines, but they're certainly above like the middle ground of the league I would just feel so much better about this offense if they just had like one true X receiver, like one guy who could win against press man coverage, like throw him about, like just handle the boundary stuff, because all of these guys are players that take some level of role catering. Like Rashee Rice is a very, very productive player, but he's a very, very productive player in like a singular role. Like he's I think he can develop into very specific. Like I think he can develop into an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of player where he's getting a lot of these layup looks from the slot and he's winning after the catch and he's like a primary zone beater. And it's unfair to say like, well, we didn't see that last year because we only saw him for basically 3.1 games because he got hurt after like 4 plays in the Chargers game in week 4. But like that development needs to happen. And then also, Xavier Worthy is a guy that also needs a lot of role catering because he's 165 pounds. He can't like handle those real boundary routes either. So there's already some kind of overlap and kind of how you have to cater to those two guys. And then your third receiver is Marquise Brown, who's another guy that ideally you want to do some role catering for and things of that nature. And even Jalen Royals, like, I think optimally deployed like Rashee Rice, so it's a weird receiver room. Even Kelsey.
Yeah,
exactly. So there's not like one guy who just kind of settles this room. And like now we have, because again, Rice, like production wise, really, really good, but it is in hyper specific ways. And they still have like Juju Smith-Schuster on the roster, who was the king of this like 4 or 5 years ago, that needed to be like deployed in this way. So you got to go down to like UDFA Elijah Badger to find a guy that I think is like an actual X receiver. And he's an undrafted free agent that's probably not going to play a snap for this team.
Oh. Justin Ross is still on the roster.
For now,
I think I have one share somewhere.
I literally just cut him off my dynasty roster last week. I have like enough.
Wow.
I'm not going to
swear he was talented.
That's some patience.
I know. But I think the last point I have on this offense was, I think when you start listing off the wide receivers and then you deduct Rashee Rice from it, it's like, man, it's really hard to live in dink and dunk pass world when we don't have anyone who can really break a tackle like that. And I think
that's
even though Rashee is, like you said, type of specific role, at least you have some size and some speed and physicality that they just didn't have at all last year. So I don't know. It's just a mess. It's a mess. But you got 15 under center, so be better. Just be better.
Right, sure. They're missing in the weirdest way. They're just missing like a chunk of the field they can't attack right now because they don't have anyone big enough to attack over the middle or crafty enough to attack over the middle, route running or size wise. It was Kelsey. I mean, and you could set your clock to it, but now it just feels like they just can't attack certain areas because of who they had. It's crossers, bubbles, bombs. Crossers, bubbles, bombs. That's like their offense right now, passing game, which is some of those bombs have to be completed to make that work. And right now, recently, they haven't been able to do that. So it's like the same issue. I feel like I've been talking about this freaking team for 3 years now. So we'll see how it goes. Like you said, Charles, they got 15. At least I got that.